The average German household saves about 19% of its income. The average American household saves 4.5%. That is more than 4 times the discipline, year after year, decade after decade. And yet, the typical German family is poorer than the typical family in Spain, in Italy, and Belgium. Not slightly poorer. The median German household holds about 70,000 euros in wealth. In Spain, that number is closer to 117,000. Read that again. The people who save the most in Western Europe end up with the least. Both of those things are true at the same time. And the reason why is one of the most useful money lessons you will ever hear. Hi, I am Clara. In this video, Clara walks you through 10 money habits Germans have that most Americans do not. 9 of them you should steal. The 10th one is the trap, and it is the one people copy first. Number 1, they rent, and they are not embarrassed about it. Germany has the lowest homeownership rate in the European Union. Fewer than 47% of German households own the place they live in. More than half of the country rents, including doctors, engineers, and people well into their 50s. In America, renting carries a quiet shame. It sounds like a waiting room, a thing you do until the real life starts. In Germany, renting is just housing. Tenants have strong legal protection. Leases run for years, and nobody assumes you failed because you do not have a mortgage. Here is what that unlocks. When buying is not a scoreboard, you stop buying at the wrong time. You do not stretch for a house at 28 because your friends did. You do not drain the emergency fund for a down payment on a place you will leave in 4 years. The habit worth stealing is not renting forever. It is refusing to let a house become a status test you have to pass on someone else's schedule. Number 2, they pay with money they already have. Only about 1 in 5 Germans carries a credit card. Not 1 in 5 uses it rarely. 1 in 5 owns one at all. And in a country with some of the best banking infrastructure in the world. Roughly half of all in-person purchases are still settled in cash. To an American, this looks almost primitive. No points, no miles, no cash back. But watch what it actually does. Cash has a property no card has ever had. It runs out. You feel it leaving. There is a small, useful friction in handing over a bill that swiping simply does not produce. And every study on spending finds the same thing. People spend more when the payment does not hurt. The German is not trying to optimize rewards. The German is trying to not lie to himself about what he can afford this month. You do not have to give up your cards. But if you have ever finished a month and genuinely could not explain where the money went, that is the friction you are missing. Number 3, in German, debt and guilt are the same word. The word is Schuld. It means what you owe, and it means what you are blamed for. Same word, same sound. Children learn it that way, and nobody has to teach a class about it. That single accident of language does something enormous. In the United States, we have built a soft vocabulary around owing money. We do not say debt, we say financing. Monthly payment, 0% for 18 months. We made the language friendly so the product would feel friendly. Germans never got that upgrade. When a German considers a loan, the word itself pushes back. I want to be careful here because this habit has a cost. A country that treats all debt as moral failure also avoids the debt that builds things. But there is a version of this you can use. Before you finance anything, say the actual word, not payment, debt, then decide. Words are not decoration. They are the frame you make the decision inside of. Number 4, they save an amount that would sound impossible here. 19%. That is the German household savings rate. The American number, 4.5%, is not a bad year or a recession dip. That is roughly where we live. Now hold that gap for a second, because most people hear 19% and immediately think, well, they must earn more. They do not. Median incomes in Germany and the United States are not far apart once you adjust for cost of living. The difference is not the size of the paycheck. It is what happens to it in the first 48 hours. Germans treat saving as a fixed bill, not a leftover. It leaves the account on payday, automatically, before the money has a chance to become an opinion. This is the single habit on this list with the best return on effort. You do not need discipline every day if you only need it once, on the day you set up the transfer. And remember that 19%. It comes back at the end of this video, and it will not mean what you think it means. Number 5. They insure things Americans would never think to insure. Germans carry liability insurance almost universally. Legal insurance is common. There is insurance for your bicycle, for your glass windows, for accidentally damaging a friend's laptop. To an outsider, it looks like paranoia with a monthly fee. But look at what it prevents. The fastest way a stable middle-class household falls apart is not slow overspending. It is one event. A lawsuit, a hospital bill, a car that dies the same month the roof does. Ruin usually arrives all at once. Germans buy the boring policy so that a bad Tuesday stays a bad Tuesday instead of becoming a bad decade. Now, you can absolutely take this too far, and many Germans do. Paying to insure a $200 phone is a bad trade because you could simply replace it. The rule that survives the crossing is simple. Insure what would break you. Absorb what would only annoy you. Most Americans do the opposite. We insure the phone and skip the umbrella policy. Number 6. They buy the car outright, and they buy it late. The country that builds the Porsche, the Mercedes, and the BMW is a country where an enormous number of people drive a 9-year-old Volkswagen with no loan attached to it. German car loans are shorter and less common than American ones, and the used market is treated as normal rather than as settling. In America, the car became a subscription. The average new car payment crossed $700 a month, and the average loan now stretches beyond 6 years. 6 years is longer than most people keep the car. Here is the part that actually hurts. That payment is not just money. It is a fixed obligation that removes your flexibility. You cannot take the lower-paying job you want. You cannot walk out of the bad manager's office. A large monthly payment quietly sells your options back to you, 1 month at a time. Germans keep the car boring, so the rest of the life can be interesting. Number 7. They are extremely comfortable looking ordinary. There is a cultural expectation in Germany against visible display. Showing off is not admired, it is faintly embarrassing. Wealthy Germans routinely drive modest cars, live in modest apartments, and wear clothes with no logo on them at all. I have made a whole video about looking poor while being rich, and Germany is the closest things to a national experiment in it. Why does this matter in dollars? Because almost every dollar of lifestyle inflation is spent on an audience. The upgrade you cannot stop thinking about is usually the one someone else will see. Nobody finances a nicer mattress. People finance the driveway. When a culture stops rewarding the display, the spending has nowhere to go, so it stays in the account. You cannot change your country's culture. You can absolutely change who you let be the audience. Number 8, their default planning horizon is a decade, not a quarter. The classic German savings product, the Bausparvertrag, is a contract where you save steadily for years in order to earn the right to a housing loan later. Years of saving, before the thing you are saving for is even available to you. That instrument only makes sense inside a culture where a 10-year commitment is normal, and that patience shows up everywhere. Apprenticeships run 3 years. Careers are built inside a single company. The national budget rule is literally called a debt break. Americans are trained on the opposite clock. Quarterly earnings, 30-day returns, and an app that tells you your net worth changed today. The habit here is not the German product. You cannot buy a Bausparvertrag, and you would not want to. The habit is the horizon. Almost every good money decision looks boring or even wrong when you judge it over 90 days. And obvious when you judge it over 10 years. Number 9. Children are handed real money and real consequences. German kids typically receive Taschengeld, a small regular allowance from early school age. There are widely published guidelines by age. The point is not the amount. The point is that a 7-year-old gets a fixed sum, spends it badly, and then lives inside that mistake until the next one arrives. Compare that with how most American households handle it. Money is either invisible, or it appears as a reward for chores, which quietly teaches that money is payment for compliance rather than a resource you steer. A child who blows an entire allowance on candy in one afternoon has just received the cheapest financial lesson of their life. That same lesson at 22 costs a credit card. At 32, it costs a car loan. At 52, it costs our retirement. If you have kids, this one is nearly free, and it compounds longer than any investment on this list. Number 10. And this is the one to be careful with, because it is the habit most people copy first. Germans save beautifully, and then they park it. More than 80% of German household money sits in ordinary savings accounts. Savings books and fixed deposits, not in stocks, not in index funds, not in property. Stock ownership rates in Germany are among the lowest in the developed world. Now bring back the number from earlier. 19% saved, year after year, for decades. And the median German household still ends up with about 70,000 euros, while Spain sits near 117,000 and Italy near 115. They outsaved almost everyone, and they still finished behind, because saving and investing are not the same verb. Saving protects money from you. Investing protects money from time. If you only do the first one, inflation quietly performs the second one against you. That is the whole lesson of this video. Discipline is not a strategy. Discipline is what makes a strategy possible, and it does absolutely nothing on its own. The Germans mastered the hard half and skipped the easy half. Most Americans do the reverse. We know we should be in the market, and we never get around to funding it. So take the discipline. Take the saving on payday. Take the honest word for debt, the boring car, the quiet clothes, the 10-year horizon, and then do the part they skipped. Put the money somewhere it can grow, and leave it there long enough for time to do the work. 9 habits to copy, 1 to avoid. That is the whole map. If this was useful, subscribe, because the next one goes after the opposite culture. The country that invests aggressively and saves almost nothing, and what happens to those families when the market turns. Now I am curious about you. Of these 10, which one would you actually adopt, and which one would drive you completely crazy? Tell me in the comments, I read them.